Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The year 1937 witnessed the publication of Karl Popper's The Logic of Scientific Discovery, a work that would irrevocably alter the philosophy of science. This publication, appearing amidst the intellectual ferment of the interwar period, offered a radical re-evaluation of the scientific method, challenging the prevailing positivist doctrines and laying the groundwork for a new understanding of knowledge and its acquisition. Prior to Popper, the dominant view, rooted in the Vienna Circle, emphasized verification as the cornerstone of science. Logical positivists championed the idea that a statement could be considered scientific only if it was empirically verifiable. This meant that a scientific hypothesis had to be confirmed by sensory experience. This approach, however, faced significant challenges, most notably the problem of induction. As David Hume had pointed out, no number of observations, however extensive, could definitively prove a universal statement. The sun's consistent rising in the east, for instance, offered no guarantee that it would rise tomorrow. Popper, profoundly influenced by his encounters with Einstein's theory of relativity, which made risky predictions that could be falsified, and by the limitations he saw in Marxist and Freudian theories, which appeared to explain everything, rejected the verificationist approach. His central thesis was that scientific statements are, by their nature, not verifiable, but falsifiable. A scientific theory, according to Popper, must be stated in such a way that it can be proven wrong. A hallmark of science, therefore, is its capacity for refutation. A theory that is irrefutable, that can accommodate any conceivable observation, is, in Popper's view, a pseudoscientific. Popper's work presented a new methodological framework. Scientific progress, he argued, is achieved not through the accumulation of verified truths, but through a process of conjecture and refutation. The scientist proposes a bold hypothesis, derived from empirical evidence or intuition. This hypothesis is then subjected to rigorous testing, aiming to falsify it. If the hypothesis survives these tests, it is tentatively retained, it is corroborated, but never definitively proven. If the hypothesis is falsified, it is rejected, and the scientist formulates a new hypothesis, which is then subjected to its own cycle of testing. This process of trial and error, of conjecture and refutation, drives the advancement of scientific knowledge. The core of Popper's methodology lies in its emphasis on falsification. He introduced the concept of modus tollens as the logical structure of falsification. If a hypothesis, H, implies an observation, O, and we observe the absence of O, then we can validly conclude that H is false. This contrasts with verification, which attempts to confirm a theory by showing that it is consistent with observed evidence. Popper maintained that the search for confirmation is inherently flawed, as any amount of positive evidence cannot definitively prove a theory. In addition to offering a methodological framework, Popper's work had far-reaching implications for the demarcation problem, the problem of distinguishing between science and pseudoscience. By emphasizing the importance of falsifiability, Popper provided a criterion for distinguishing between scientific and non-scientific claims. A claim belongs to science if it is possible, at least in principle, to show it to be false. Theories that explain everything, that are consistent with everything, are, in Popper's framework, suspect. The impact of the logic of scientific discovery was immediate. It sparked a lively debate within the philosophy of science and exerted a profound influence on the practice of scientific inquiry. Popper's ideas challenged the prevailing consensus, prompting scientists and philosophers to rethink their assumptions about the nature of scientific knowledge. This approach promoted a critical, skeptical approach to scientific claims. One of the most immediate applications of Popper's ideas was in the realm of social sciences. His emphasis on falsifiability led to rejection of theories that seemed to explain everything, such as Marxism and Freudian psychoanalysis. Popper argued that these theories were often immune to falsification, as their proponents could always reinterpret evidence to fit the theory, rendering them, in his view, unscientific. His critique encouraged social scientists to develop theories that were more testable, more precise, and more open to empirical refutation. The influence of the logic of scientific discovery extended beyond specific disciplines. Popper's emphasis on critical thinking and intellectual honesty resonated widely. His work became influential in political philosophy, shaping his later defense of open societies and the importance of freedom of thought. He argued that scientific progress, like social progress, depends on the free exchange of ideas and the willingness to subject all claims to rigorous scrutiny. The reception to Popper's work was naturally complex. It was met with considerable resistance from some quarters, particularly those still wedded to the verificationist approach. Critics argued that falsification was often difficult in practice and that scientists, rather than abandoning theories at the first sign of contradictory evidence, often modified them or sought auxiliary hypotheses to protect them from refutation. The Tuham-Quine thesis, for example, points out that when a prediction fails, it is difficult to pinpoint which component of the hypothesis is wrong, as a theory is not tested in isolation, but within a network of assumptions, the implication being that one might, for example, reject or modify the auxiliary hypotheses rather than the core theory. Despite these critiques, Popper's ideas gained widespread acceptance. They inspired a new generation of philosophers of science. His work stimulated the development of alternative methodologies, such as Imrelakito's theory of scientific research programs, which acknowledged that scientific theories often have a hard core of central assumptions. Further, it stimulated Thomas Kuhn's work on scientific revolutions, which highlighted the importance of paradigm shifts in scientific progress. These thinkers, while differing from Popper on some points of detail, were united in their rejection of the verificationist approach and their appreciation of Popper's insights into the nature of scientific progress. Popper's work was directly influenced by several intellectual currents. First, his engagement with the philosophy of science was shaped by his intellectual interactions with contemporaries, including the members of the Vienna Circle. Although he opposed many of their key tenets, their focus on the logic of science provided the foundation for his own work. Second, his work was deeply influenced by the scientific revolution and, in particular, by Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. The ability of Einstein's theory to make risky predictions that could be tested and potentially falsified impressed Popper, and he took it as a model for what scientific theories should be. This contrasts with the Marxist and Freudian theories that Popper observed, which seemed to explain everything and could never be conclusively refuted. Third, he was influenced by the work of David Hume, who had already highlighted the problem of induction. Hume's insights helped to illuminate the limits of empirical verification approach. The influence of the logic of scientific discovery on subsequent scientific and philosophical thought is undeniable. It provided a powerful critique of the prevailing positivist doctrines. The philosophical impact of the work involved a shift in our understanding of scientific method. This shift also involved the relationship between theory and experience, and the nature of scientific progress. Popper's ideas also had a profound impact on scientific practice, encouraging scientists to adopt a more critical and self-reflexive approach to their work. He prompted scientists to formulate hypotheses in a way that allowed them to be tested rigorously. The focus shifted from seeking to prove the truth of a theory to seeking to test the truth of a theory. This emphasis on testing, on experimental verification, and on subjecting scientific claims to rigorous scrutiny has become a hallmark of scientific inquiry. His ideas are still discussed and debated. The emphasis on critical thinking, on the importance of falsifiability, continues to shape the way scientists approach their work. The book's legacy continues to be important in many other fields. In conclusion, Karl Popper's The Logic of Scientific Discovery stands as a landmark achievement in the history of ideas. It challenged the verificationist dogma, presented a new methodology of science, and offered a powerful criterion for distinguishing between science and pseudoscience. Popper's work, deeply rooted in the intellectual context of the time, has had a lasting impact on both the philosophy of science and the practice of scientific inquiry. The work's legacy lies in its encouragement of a critical, skeptical approach to scientific claims. It emphasized the importance of testing, of experimental verification, and subjecting scientific claims to rigorous scrutiny. Popper's work continues to be relevant to how we understand and practice science today.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.